comic book and manga fans. This is H. German from Sigma Comics, back again with another video. This time we're talking about Daredevil. What if I wrote Daredevil? Okay, I am H. German, the founder of Sigma Comics. I'm the writer of Here Comes Calico, and we're asking what would happen if I had the opportunity to write Daredevil. Daredevil is going to be re-released as a new series. Okay, they're going to start from scratch with a brand new Daredevil series, and this opened up the question, what would happen if I wrote Daredevil? Of course, I'm known for a very gritty New York style, and of course Daredevil is a very New York gritty character. So here's an opportunity to discuss that. But let's tell you who we are. We're Sigma Comics. We fight animal cruelty through comics through our series, Here Comes Calico, which is available on our website, sigmacomics.com. If you love a gritty character, not unlike Daredevil, who likes to go in and kick some serious ASS in the streets of New York City, well, you certainly have him here. Our guy has a different slant. He's not really a people person. He's an animal person. He loves animals, and he goes after people who abuse them. So we have comic books, we have trade paperbacks, we have manga, we have merch, and we'd love for you to support us at sigmacomics.com. So let's get into the question. What would happen if I wrote Daredevil? Well, I think there's a lot of criticism out there for today's writers. And I think a lot of the criticism is valid. Of course, some of it is a bit sensational and out there, but that's just the nature of the web. I do think, however, there is a bit of a quality issue when it comes to comics today. And I've seen it because, when I decided to jump into comics about 5 years ago and started writing Here Comes Calico, I picked up some comics and I did some research there. And I found that, there was a lot missing in terms of quality in not only the writing, but, some of the art, the production, and I simply just wasn't impressed. And frankly, that's one of the reasons why I decided quite confidently to jump into the space. Whenever there's an opportunity to improve something, you're going to have people coming in and trying to, quote unquote, fix things. But in my case, it was really more to tell a story, and I saw the opportunity to tell it. Of course, COVID opened the door for that, but that's another story. The bottom line is the character Daredevil has had quite a few iterations, and this seems to be a common thing these days where you have a series. In this case, this is a very beloved character, Daredevil. You run it for, 15, 20, 30 issues, and all of a sudden it's time to start it anew. And I honestly don't think that's a very good thing to do, but this is what's going on today in comics. That's one of the many problems you see in comics today. So let's jump into it. How would I write this? Okay, let's not waste any time, sort of trashing the industry. And certainly that's not the goal here. It's really to see what would happen if I had the opportunity to write this character. So I think the typical approach, I can't speak for today's writers, but I think a typical approach would be obviously to pick up some Daredevil comics and, sort of flip through a few of them and then start doing your own thing. If you go off of the videos that I see on people, of people who have written these books, one of the main criticism is the fact that there is very poor understanding of these characters, and these characters are put in situations that, frankly, if you look at their backstory, they simply would not perform the way they do in the books. So there's certainly a bit of ignorance on the part of the new writers who are taking on these characters, and simply the idea that they haven't done their homework. So what would I do, even though I'm intimately familiar with the character? I mean, the character, got to preface this by saying that this is a New York-based character. Okay, he's from Hell's Kitchen. I know Hell's Kitchen very well. I've actually been quoted many times saying it's my least favorite neighborhood of all in New York City. I'm not a fan of Hell's Kitchen. but there are reasons for that. But the thing is, I know the area really, really well. Okay, I am from New York City. I'm from the Bronx, and I've walked through those streets, and I've done more than just walk through those streets of Hell's Kitchen. I'm very familiar with Hell's Kitchen. Know the area well. I know New York City very well, and this is a character that's rooted in New York City, and a lot of his stories do take place there. Okay, he encounters conflict regularly in these streets. I know the neighborhoods. I know the gritty neighborhoods, the bad neighborhoods, seedy, all the above, right? So it's interesting to have that background because you have a different texture to your writing that you're simply not going to have if you're not from here, from New York. I'm actually in Florida right now on vacation, but this is what I mean. So the character's from New York. He's also a former boxer, okay, or is a boxer, and that's yours truly again. Ding, 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 ding. I'm a former boxer from New York City. Okay, so I am very familiar with the mindset of a fighter in New York City and what he has to sort of keep in mind when he's having these regular conflicts. You have to think about this. Someone like Daredevil, and again, someone like myself, we rise and shine every day with the knowledge that we will be in conflict. Okay, pretty much every day. If you spar like I did, I mean, there was a summer that I sparred every single day, 7 days a week. I was running 5, 6 days a week, and I was sparring 7 days a week. That's a lot of fighting. And you could say, well, sparring is just, fake fighting or light fighting. Oh, no, my friends. In New York City, sparring can mean quite a few things. Okay, the bottom line is that's the mindset. Okay, you have to be a fighter, no. But I'm just giving you more context to me writing the character. Okay, let's jump in. So what would I do? How would I do it? How would H.H. German jump into this? The first thing I would do is I'd pick up some Annie Leibovitz books. I really look at the photos. I mean, just for the uninitiated, Annie Leibovitz is a New York-based photographer, a New York-based photographer that really understands the art and culture of New York City. She was born in the Bronx, like yours truly. Someone who really gets it, the culture, and really very insightful pictures that really just bring you into the grime and grit of New York City. I go to Barnes and Noble, sit down with some big ass Annie Leibovitz books, and I go to town, man. I bring my sketchbook and I take some notes. I do a little sketching, just ideas of what I'd like to see, the tonality. You might even get writing ideas from seeing her photos. This is what happens. People think they have to pick up a book and be inspired to write. No, I mean, I get inspired sometimes just by listening to music. A Steely Dan song, sort of, some texture there, New York City sound, 80s. But, you could look at a piece of sculpture. You could even eat something, a nice bagel somewhere on 2nd Avenue. I mean, there's so many things that could sort of incite a story, compel a story out of you, right? And for me, I think that's what I would do. I'd start there with Annie Leibovitz. I'd really sit down and get the imagery. And then the next thing I do is I'd start looking at some of the stuff, some graffiti, some stuff from back in the 80s, stuff that, Keith Haring was doing. By the way, a former School of Visual Art alumni. I'm also alumnus of School of Visual Arts. Yeah, I'd look at some of his, some graffiti, some of the stuff Basquiat was doing. I'd go into like Phase 1, Scene. That's a Bronx-based graffiti artist. I really look at that stuff. Really get a really good feel for New York in the 80s, which is one of the most dangerous, if not the most dangerous period in New York. Historians are scratching their heads in frustration hearing that. Of course, it was very dangerous back in the turn of the century with a lot of gangs. like the Plug Uglies and whatnot. I forget the movie now that chronicled gangs of New York, of course, gangs of New York. But yeah, I know quite a bit about the history and the gangs, the gang life in New York. But yeah, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, that would be another thing. There's lots of really good books, and I think there's a graphic novel, or that touches on gangs of New York, not perhaps as a story, but just chronicling gangs of New York. And I think some of them are illustrated. I'm pretty sure I remember reading one and really enjoying learning about all these different gangs. The Dead Rabbits, another gang from the turn of the century, Irish gangs. Anyway, yeah, I look at some of the graffiti from the 80s, 80s hip hop. I turn on some 80s hip hop. That's what I would do. Third thing I do, listen to some music, stuff like R&B and Rakim, African Bambaataa, stuff from KRS-One, definitely South Bronx. Really get into the a multi-sensory experience before I even put the pen down. And then once I felt like I really have a good, firm New York mindset, um, I'd call someone like Joe Corallo. Joe Corallo is a New York-based writer. He's a very good writer. But aside from being a good writer, that's not why I'd call him. I'd call him because the man is a walking encyclopedia of comics. Okay, and the reason I'd call him is because once I had sort of an angle or an idea, I'd want to, or even before that, I want to have a few conversations with him about the kind of antagonistic force that I would like to insert into the storyline, right? Uh, and who better to call than someone like Joe Corallo, who knows pretty much every character in the Marvel universe. So that's who I'd call. I'd really sit down with him a few times, and we'd sort of kick around a few characters, a few names, and we have discussions about these characters. And then I'd sort of sit down with the character of Daredevil and with these few villains, and sort of work out a conflict that would give him trouble, right? That would really challenge him and bring out the best of the character. And I really think that that combination of truly uh, getting the essence, the background, the multi-sensory experience of New York with the character, understanding some compelling villains that make sense for the specific conflict that I'd be going with. It really makes sense. I'd be off to a very nice start. And the truth is, that would, for me, I think that would get me to a really nice story. And once I had something that was really solid, that I was really pleased with, I'd get up, and the first person I'd call would be Mike Barron. Mike Barron is someone who, uh, first of all, I mean, he goes without saying, man's a legend, right? A two-time Eisner Award winner, writer of The Punisher. I mean, it's just incredible, right? He's written some. I know he's written other things like Flash. He's actually written a couple of Batman things, and it just the list goes on. Of course, the Badger, another incredible character, his own character. Of course, Nexus, the space character. But yeah, he'd be the person I call the first one. And actually, he's editing book three right now of Here Comes Calico. So I'm already doing that piece, right? I'm very fortunate to have him as a friend, and he's editing book three right now of Calico. So I talked to him. We'd go very thoroughly through the book. Uh, Man's again incredible. And then once I took good enough beating from Mike, I'd go in, make the edits. I'm sure a lot of them would be pretty much all of them be spot on. So I really pay good attention to him, what he has to say. And then finally, for polish, if I want to do that, I'd bring in someone like Aaron Sparrow. Aaron Sparrow, of course, Darkwing Duck writer. You might say, well, Darkwing Duck, Daredevil, how does that fit in? No, the man clearly has a very keen eye, very insightful. And that's where you want to watch your comics, with someone like Aaron Sparrow. I like Aaron because he's going to tell you how it is. A lot of today's writers are very soft. They're very, very soft. emotionally lacking in control, the minute they take criticism, they fall apart. I don't know if this is a generational thing or what it is, but Aaron is someone who you really want to put your finished piece in front of and have him just go through the thing with just a fine brush there. And he's going to figure out some things that you might not have seen. And so that's why it's important to have a diverse team with different ideas, people who can challenge you, who might differ from you in views, opinions, et cetera, so that you can really come out with something that is multi-dimensional, that really has texture, that really resonates and can really do the job of compelling people to keep doing this, turning pages. And that's our job, our most important job, folks. You have to entertain people, okay? You have to entertain people. That's job number one if you're a writer. It's not to give your agendas out. It's not to do some kind of public service announcement for yourself and the causes you have. It's to entertain the audience of that book. Okay, I'm going to leave it right there. Okay, I think it was a nice, quick, effective one. But folks, that's how I would write Daredevil. The truth is, the likelihood of that is very is close to zero, because I love writing Calico, and our mission is, of course, fighting animal cruelty. Maybe if they called me to do an animal-based story, then I'd probably, maybe consider it. But other than that, I'm sticking to Calico, folks. Hey, we have a Kickstarter right now on. We have a book right now on Kickstarter. It's called Green Eye Bandito, and it is the prequel to Calico. So go ahead to Kickstarter right now, type in Green Eye Bandito, and pick that book up. It's a manga book, but I still think you are going to love it. Or you might love it already if you love manga. Anyway, keep on fighting for animals.